I'm proud to recognize Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and celebrate all of the amazing contributions of our AAPI community. Our Asian American and Pacific Islander community is one of our largest and most diverse communities in the county. We are so lucky to have excellent community partners and organizations that promote an appreciation of the heritage and rich history of their diverse AAPI communities. I'm especially grateful to our many community partners and residents who have gone above and beyond to help our neighbors, especially this year throughout the pandemic. It's so heartening to see how our communities have banded together to help each other through this difficult time. I also must recognize the despicable violence that's been directed at the AAPI community, which was already at a high level prior to the pandemic. As we know, the pandemic has sadly exacerbated this problem. It'll take work from all of us to end this unspeakable violence. I'm so proud that our United States Senate resoundingly passed an anti-Asian hate crimes bill to bolster law enforcement response to the rising attacks on the Asian American community. And I was pleased to see Governor Hogan create a work group to address the rise in anti-Asian violence. This is an area where the two parties can come together and we can truly make our community safer against these awful acts of hate and violence. Here in Montgomery County, our values of inclusion, compassion, tolerance, opportunity, and sacrifice for others are the reason people who have chosen to call this place home. I'll now call on Mayor Modi, Ariana Ong, and Dr. Nguyen to speak. Let me first recognize a mover and shaker and glass ceiling breaker, history maker, Senator Susan Lee, first Asian American to represent Montgomery County in the Maryland General Assembly. Senator Lee.
Thank you very much, President Tom Hucker. I'd like to thank your wonderful colleagues on the County Council, of course, Councilman Friedson, Albornoz, Rice, Reamer, Navarro, Jawando, Glass, and Katz, and my condolences again to the Katz family. You are a wonderful County Council, and you make us so proud. And thank you for letting us celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and providing this wonderful proclamation. You know, for hundreds of years, generations of Asian American Pacific Islanders, through their talent, their hard work, have built America and made it the global leader that it is today. And today our new immigrants are building on this foundation laid by the earlier generations. And of course, the history of America would be incomplete without including the history of the contributions made by our AAPIs, from building, of course, the railroads to developing medical and technological breakthroughs and launching an online and digital revolution like Zoom, which we're on right now, and working tirelessly at the forefront as healthcare providers and first responders to save lives. And of course, serving in our U.S. Armed Forces, like my own dad, Harry Lee, who was a World War II U.S. Navy veteran who defended freedom on the perilous Atlantic Pacific and was part of what they called the greatest generation. And they defended freedom during the darkest times in world history. We, of course, have much to be proud of in our community. We've made tremendous strides. But of course, as the President Hucker said, this has been a very difficult year for our community because of COVID-19, the scapegoating that has been occurring, the toxic and political rhetoric created by former President Donald Trump and some of the highest elected individuals in government by calling the virus Kung flu or China virus, which is, of course, contributed to the 150% increase in attacks against our wonderful community and put a bullseye on the backs of our grandparents and our parents and our children. So it's a dangerous situation, but acts of this kind of bias, they are unacceptable and they're un-American because we are not foreigners, we are Americans. And when you attack us, you attack all Americans and all those principles and values we hold dear. So I am so proud of our council president, Tom Hucker, and his colleagues, county council members, our county executive, Mark Elrich, and my own Senate President, Bill Ferguson, and our House Speaker, Adrian Jones, and of course, our congressional delegation, particularly my Congressman, Jamie Raskin, and of course, our wonderful President, Joe Biden, and Vice President, Kamala Harris, the first woman and Asian and Black American to ever hold this high office of fight. We're so proud of her. I'd like to also thank you for speaking up and standing with us, because when you do that, you send a clear message that this is not tolerated. And I also like to say I'm working with a Columbia University professor, Agnes Shu Tang, on her nationwide information campaign called the Yellow Whistle Project, which she has donated hundreds of thousands of these whistles to distribute it to our community nationwide. And we in Maryland are getting 20,000 of them. So anyway, this is a special month for us. And I thank you, Council President Hucker, and all my wonderful council members for letting us celebrate this joyful day with us. And we're going to make this a better world for all of us in future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thanks to you and all your colleagues, too, for everything you did for us during the General Assembly session. Judge Pock, welcome.
Thank you. I just can't thank you enough for our Montgomery County Council for promoting inclusion and diversity and combating bias and hate against people of color. And I really appreciate your work in recognizing the significant contributions Asian Americans have made to the United States and this state and this county. And Asian Americans have sacrificed, made ultimate sacrifice for the good of this country since the Civil War. And yet often we are being portrayed as foreigners, and that has created this violence and hate against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And your work in Montgomery County makes things far better for our community. And I just want to thank all of you for your proactive approach to fighting these problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Ong?
Thank you, Council President Hucker. On behalf of the Montgomery County Progressive Asian American Network, I want to thank the Council for holding this virtual event to kick off Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And also thank you to the County Executive for holding a similar event this past weekend. I'm also grateful for your support through the Unity event that you held after the Atlanta shootings, a couple of public safety town halls, and a schools community meeting. The proclamation is very much appreciated. It's in the spirit of the federal law that designated May as a month to celebrate API history, contributions, and challenges. APIs have a lot of stories to tell. Stories about immigration, whether it's in search of the American dream or sanctuary because of US colonialism, military engagement, or foreign policy in Asia. Stories about people. I can introduce you to a Montgomery County resident who recalls the dust still to this day that would kick up through the wood slats in the temporary housing that he lived during the Japanese American incarceration camps in the desert. Stories about contributions. API pioneers have traversed space, designed US landmark monuments, discovered cures, and spurred innovation in Silicon Valley, among many other things. And ordinary heroes have served as frontline healthcare workers during the pandemic. Are you aware that 1 in 11 nurses are APIs, and mainly Filipino immigrants? Stories about challenges. APIs are no stranger to racism. They challenge discriminatory immigration laws, school desegregation, and alien land laws. And knowing that a rising tide lifts all boats, APIs have joined in the civil rights struggles of the 60s, the Black Lives Movement, and sent 120,000 hand-folded paper cranes to the US as a protest message calling for the closure of ICE detention camps. So we have a mandate to tell these stories. As the previous speakers mentioned, there were 3,800 anti-Asian incidents nationwide this past year, and 2 mass shootings in the past 6 weeks that claimed 10 AAPI lives of 16 victims. Our prevention strategy are these stories. So to that end, we're happy to offer resources for any county agency that would like to incorporate API stories in their diversity trainings or events, or to consult on inclusion strategies. Thank you again for inviting us to share in this commemoration today. It's been a privilege.
Thank you, Ms. Ong. Mr. Modi, congrats and thanks again for the great event I saw in White Oak this weekend. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, County President Hucker, and County Council members and Senator Lee. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of today's Asian American Heritage Month event, and it has been my honor to be associated with our prolific, diverse community here in Montgomery County. Our county is outstanding and example of diverse cultures coming together under one umbrella. Over the past year, we have shown what unity in diversity looks like by coming together to fight the pandemic and racial injustice. Our diverse culture has been inspiration, and to start the American Diversity Group, it has been a pleasure and honor to serve our Asian community and honor to serve other communities as well. We are committed to serve our country and be responsible citizens of this country and the county. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Nguyen.
On behalf of the Asian American Health Initiative Steering Committee, I want to first express our sympathy to Council Member Cass and his family for the recent loss. And I want to express our appreciation to Council President Hucker and the County Council for hosting the event today for the proclamation celebrating the AAPI Heritage Month of May. And the recognition of Asian American contribution to this county, to this country, and we are the member of the community here in Montgomery County is crucial and comforting in the environment today. As the previous speaker had mentioned, that we believe that the rich and diverse heritage that Asian American can bring to this country is valuable, and it can add to the beauty that we have and want to promote here in this country and in the county. So I believe that the Asian American community can and will continue to contribute to that collective community that we have, so we can bring and help to make Montgomery County a better and healthier place to live. I want to emphasize that even though we are diverse, we have different paths, but we have a lot of things in common that share humanity. And with that, we want to celebrate this month in that common sense, the common that we have, so that we can work together as one community moving forward. Thank you to the council and for your leadership during that difficult years in 2020 and this year as we move forward to continue to fight against a pandemic and the challenge that we face in the county. And we're looking forward to continue to working with you to celebrate the diversity that we have in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Mr. Shen, anything to add? Did I leave anybody out?
Thank you so much, Council President Hucker. First, I want to say thank you to the Council for holding the Solidarity event after the mass shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. I also want to thank Chief Jones, Senator Lee, and various elected officials that spoke out against anti-Asian hate and violence. And I also want to thank nonprofits that wrote letters of support to the Asian community condemning these anti-Asian hate and violence. And I want to single out the Jewish Community Relations Council, who in March of 2020 wrote a letter saying that they stood against anti-Asian sentiments, and they recognize that there's a growing concern, and they stand with the Asian community. This is at the beginning of the pandemic, and you know, they're like the basically the first nonprofit that I heard from, and I just want to really thank them for everything. As Ariane said earlier, AAPI Heritage Month is a celebration of our history, heritage, our contribution, while recognizing the challenge that Asians have gone through in the United States. So take time to learn about our history, take time to learn about our culture, take time to learn about our struggles, and it's through education that we can achieve unity with every group. And the one thing I want to say is, if you watch any sporting event, as soon as one person chants USA, everybody chants USA. It's time to start acting like it. And I just want to end with May the 4th be with you all.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Okay, now we can read the proclamation. Each council member will read one clause. I'll begin with the proclamation of the Montgomery County Council. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is recognized nationally throughout the month of May to honor the irreplaceable roles that these communities have played in our past and to celebrate the contributions made by generations of Asian American and Pacific Islanders to American history, society, and culture. And
whereas Montgomery County residents of Asian and Pacific Islander heritage come from all parts of Asia and the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. And
whereas more than 161,600 county residents identify themselves as Asian Americans or Pacific Islanders, which represents more than 15% of our population, and approximately 70% hail from 37 different countries of origin. And
whereas one of the most culturally and linguistically diverse groups in America, the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities remind us that while we all have distinct backgrounds and origins, we share the same hopes and aspirations for ourselves and our community. And
whereas in commemorating this month, we recognize the rich heritage of our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities, who continue to preserve and persevere in order to provide more opportunities for future generations. And
I read Councilmember Katz as well. Whereas this year's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month theme is elevating Asian American and Pacific Islander voices in public service, advocacy, and popular culture. And whereas Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders advocates across our community are using their voices to fight anti-Asian hate and to create a more equitable and just society. And
whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander trailblazers are succeeding each day to help shape the county's future and add their voices and experiences to make our community a better place to live, work, raise a family. And
whereas together we recommit ourselves to embrace the diversity that enriches our county and to ensure that all people have an equal opportunity to succeed. Now, therefore be it resolved, Council President.
therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, presented on the 4th day of May in the year 2021, signed by myself. Thanks to all of you for everything you're doing to make our community stronger and safer. We greatly appreciate all your contributions and look forward to continued work together.